Hey everyone, welcome back to another edition of AGT Rewatchables. This week we're going to talk about Christian Stoinev from season 2, 9, and Champions 2. Again,
He's well
joining
traveled.
me,
He's
yeah, again joining me on Rewatchables is AGT Commenter. How you doing, Commenter?
I'm good. I'm glad to be back. We recorded one that still hasn't been released, but it's been a little while since we talked and done one
Yes.
of these. I had an itch. I was having an itch to get back on it and do one of these. And we picked somebody a little bit more out of left field at least from a mainstream standpoint this time. And I know you pronounced it Stoinev.
Yeah.
Uh, was it Jerry Springer announced it Stoinev. He went a little
Okay.
more French with it. He does. He hails from his family hails from Bulgaria,
Okay.
based upon my research. So, but yeah, he seemed to say Stoinev, so I think we're right on that.
Well, Jerry Springer, he wasn't quite all there during season 2 anyway. So,
Yeah, and
and he likes
he's always
to
had a
put his
flair
own
for the
twist on things.
magnificent. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah. He sees Stoinev and he's like a Stoinev. He's gonna add his own little the Springer effect to it, I guess.
Christian
Yeah,
Stoyanev.
exactly, exactly. But I'm excited to hear your thoughts on him. Um,
Well, I can
and
tell you, you've already heard my thoughts from season 2. So,
right, and so we're excited to hear your season 9 thoughts this time.
okay.
And so it should be interesting.
Yeah. Before we get into that, let's give out the business real quick. You're probably aware we've updated our social medias. So we're now the same on all of our social media. So we're AGT Time Pod on Facebook, Twitter, and we have the Instagram.
Yes. Cody
Yes.
is officially slid into 2021. Well, like 2016. He's finally hit
Yes.
2016 and has an Instagram for the podcast
Yeah,
now.
and the reason I haven't done an Instagram is because I didn't feel I had anything to put on Instagram.
Right.
But
Yeah.
as we've kind of moved up in our technology, we've had some ways to post some things now. So I'm starting to put some things out on the Instagram. But we also have our email, agttimepod@gmail.com. We're still checking the old email address if you still have it in your history, but agttimepod is what we like to use at gmail.com is what we like to use going forward. Commenters also on all of his social medias at AGT Commenter. So he's on, we talk about this every time. He's on the
Every time.
Twitter, he's on the Instagram, he's on the
Yes.
TikTok, he's on the Kicks, he's on the MySpace.
All of them.
Yeah.
You can find me anywhere. Um, so yeah. I want to.
So,
Oh, I do want to. I want to do a quick thing here. So I've gotten into a couple arguments with people about Kanisha Bina on Twitter, and especially from our bracket.
yeah.
I went through Reddit. He's very beloved on Reddit, and so I
Okay.
apologize to the vast Reddit fan base of Kanisha Bina for me snubbing him. In our next bracket next year, when we revamp it, he'll be a higher seed. I just wanted to get that in there, a little disclaimer.
Yeah, I know one of our followers, AGT District, is a
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
big follower of Kenichi. And that's good. That's good that we
Yeah.
each have our favorites. I'm glad there's people out there that are passionate about their favorites. That brings a lot of conversation and excitement to the show and our podcast. So it's great to have those dialogues.
Yep. A lot of people have him as like one of their top 3 winners on Reddit.
All
So
right, yeah. Well, yeah.
we may have to do a deep dive back into Kenichi and give him
Okay.
his due one of these days.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
today we're
because
focused on Mr. Stoinev
Christian Stoinev and Scooby.
and Scooby. Scooby
Yes.
maybe the actual star
Yeah.
of the whole show. We'll find out.
Yeah. Yeah. If we're gonna get into Scooby, so real quick, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna switch over. I had this going, but it wasn't working very well last time. So those of you that may be watching this on the video, so commenter, I am starting to post videos, so we'll do what
Okay.
we can to make sure we keep your anonymity.
Yep.
But those of you that watch on the YouTube video, I do have my own puppy dog back there
Yes.
that
Any
looks.
is the dog a he?
The dog is a he. His name's Tito.
He does kind of look like Scooby.
He does look very similar to Scooby. He's
Yep.
part Chihuahua, part Terrier. We're not sure what part, but he's part Chihuahua, part Terrier.
One of the parts.
Yeah, we don't know. He's a Terrier. That's all.
Okay,
he's got the curly tail. So
okay, sure.
So we ready to get to talk about Christian?
Yeah, I'm ready to dive in if you are.
Yeah, go ahead and kick it off.
Okay, so just a couple of background things on him. So you guys already have discussed his season 2. Let's say cameos. And he also participated.
You mean he's that guy?
Yeah, he also was a top 12 finisher. So like kind of a I'll call it a semifinals, a super semifinalist. On season 9, that was when they went from semis to top 12 to top 6. A very dumb layout when you think about it, by calling it the semifinals and then having another semifinals in reality. But a top 12 finisher in season 9, and then he was also participated last, was it 2020, January 2020? Was that?
I think it was 19.
Was it? Okay, maybe.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah,
19.
well, okay. Champions 2. Yeah. Champions 2.
Champions 2.
He participated. When he was on season 2, was 15 years old, and so you can do the math from there on of how old he was. He talked about starting doing this kind of stuff at 5 years old. He's a 5th generation circus performer, and his family hails from Bulgaria. And he's done all sorts of different circuses and performances. I know he's a halftime show guy, or has been in the past, and done some of that kind of stuff at sporting events, and has made this from what I can understand, a career. He did go to college. We learned during some of the snippets about him, an Illinois State grad. If you know anything about Illinois State, you can chime in, Cody.
I was getting ready to check what their mascot was.
They're the Red. I think they're the Redbirds, I believe is the name.
Yes, that is correct. Go Redbirds. Yes,
Redbirds, the pride of Illinois State.
Are they Division 2? What are they?
They're an FCS football. I know that, and Division 1. So they're Missouri Valley in like the basketball tournament. And then they, but they've had a pretty good football program over the years. Lost in the national championship game a handful of years ago, actually. So
probably lost to North Dakota,
to the Bison, or one to North Dakota State. Yeah. Yep, indeed. Yeah, it's a pretty good guess. If someone lost a national championship at that level in the last decade, it was probably to that team. Okay, my hometown, former hometown. I've moved since, but former hometown team. But yeah, so that's kind of a little background on Christian. I think we can probably dive into season 2 here because it's going to be pretty quick. One, because you and Jay have already discussed Christian in your guys' terrific. I will plug the season 2 rewatch. You guys do a great job with those.
Thank you.
A couple of gripes that I've had.
Go for it. Let's hear them.
Well, so my main gripe was your guys' lack of We 3 knowledge, which me and Cody have discussed off there. I'm a huge We 3 fan, probably bigger than the average AGT fan. I just really liked their music. I still listen to it. They're part of the.
You listen to it now?
Yeah, they're part of the commenter playlist.
Nice. Okay.
They and their songs that they had, their first album I really liked. But so I was disappointed with that. And then also the clip you guys put on Instagram of Jay not having enough. He didn't have enough Johnny Carson knowledge.
I know.
For my taste. I was disappointed in him. Yeah. Johnny Carson is, that's Johnny Carson. He's right. He was the man for 30 years.
30 something years. Yes.
His final episode was like a huge deal. Yeah. And then the ensuing who's going to host after him it was some of the most dramatic Entertainment Tonight you're going to get. Do you know how that went down? Do you remember that?
Kinda. There was, of course, Jay Leno eventually took over for him, but I think there was some others that were candidates.
Letterman was really mad he didn't get it.
Yes, so and that's why Letterman went to CBS. Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. So that was a whole thing. Are you a Leno or Letterman guy? Who would you stump for?
I think once Johnny left, I really got out of the whole late night.
TV it hasn't gotten better.
No, it's not gotten better. It's gone way downhill since the early 90s, late 80s.
Yeah, when I was a kid, my household watched Leno more, so that was just the
Yeah,
person I saw more. But really never got
I
into late
think
night television.
I think we just watched Leno more. Yes, I think, and
Mhm.
maybe just because it still had that Tonight Show flavor, and Letterman was just a little more out there for our
Yeah,
family
the
than
top
what we
tens
enjoy.
and stuff like that.
I did enjoy the top 10, and that was usually about it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So those are my
Uh,
only two gripes so far from the season two
okay. Yeah.
rewatch.
We'll do better on the We Three knowledge. We'll make sure we get them in another what 12 years, 11
Yeah.
years,
Yeah.
something like
When you
that.
guys
So
finally get to season 13
yeah,
rewatch.
we'll get to them. And I once you mentioned that, I did remember that. I remember that being a big deal about them singing the song based on a journal from their
Yeah.
mom
A
as she
really
was
incredible audition.
yeah,
And
and
the
it
the
was a
big
really good
thing,
audition. Yeah.
yeah, and the big thing with them for me was the drummer, and he played the drums and the piano at the same time. It's one of the more
Yeah.
remarkable band
Yes.
things I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
never got talked about the whole season. No one ever was like, it's you can play two instruments, but the drums and the piano are not two that usually go together.
No,
I mean,
no,
like you
no,
can
they're
play the
not. No, they're not.
harmonica and the guitar or something like
Yes.
that, but you can't play. I mean, I mean, he wasn't like he was doing solos on the drums while playing the piano, but it is he was a pretty amazing act. But yeah,
And he also sang as well, correct?
yeah, he was a kind
Yeah.
of a background. He would
Yeah.
add a little, he'd vocalize with them and stuff. So yeah,
Yeah.
pretty.
Yeah.
I might have to throw them in our rewatch hopper as a potential
Okay.
future one, just because we've talked about them now
Sure. Sure.
multiple times.
Okay,
All
so
right, let's.
going back real quick. Champions 2 aired January 6th, 2020 to February 17th, 2020. So
Okay, so
yeah.
it was right before the pandemic.
Yes.
Like a
It was
month.
announced it was going to happen back in May
Yeah,
2019. So
yeah. So it aired, and then a couple weeks later, but once it was done, a couple weeks later, we pretty much entered into what we know as
yeah,
the
we're
world today.
about a month
Yeah,
after that. Yeah. Yep.
yeah. Okay, so we'll take you back here to a simpler time, January, February of 2020, a much simpler time for all
Yes.
of us. Okay, let's dive into season 2. So again, you guys have discussed this. So his audition basically was montaged, as you said. I haven't
Yes.
even seen the montage. I couldn't find it, and then once you told me it was a montage, anyways, I didn't bother, digging too deep.
Yeah.
I'm assuming he did some balancing and then maybe some somersaults and probably got the gist.
Yeah, and I think in the Vegas round they kind of highlighted a little bit about what he did in
Yeah.
his audition. It showed him yes doing some hand balancing. He had Scooby up on his up high as normal.
Mm-hmm.
But as you all listened, I hope you all listened to our season 2 rewatch. I totally missed that was him. Totally.
Well,
Jay pointed out.
it's pretty on brand, Cody. I
Yeah.
mean, realistically, of you to be like, wait, what?
Well, yeah. I mean, and when the montages came around, that's when I kind of, I
Zone
was
out.
doing some other things. Yeah. I mean, they're montages. And then when
Right.
they got back to normal acts, I tuned right back in.
Right.
And he was much younger. I mean, he was much
Yeah.
smaller. He wasn't the beefcake that he was in
Right.
season 9. And if it weren't for Scooby, I totally would have just not even recognized him at all.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So his audition, he does go through. We don't, if you watch season 2, you don't really see much of that. The Vegas round, which ends up being his final round, on air, it was one trick and that was it. But the bigger story, and I think an honorable mention for the best unintentional comedy moment of this rewatch. The reason that it kind of went sideways for him is because Scooby, it was still Scooby the first time, right?
Yes. Yeah. Scooby won. Yes.
He did 2 and 9. He was able to
yes.
do, which is impressive, I will say.
Yes.
The reason it went a little bit sideways for him was because Scooby was on the PUP list, physically unable to perform.
Yes.
because he got attacked and bit by a bigger dog.
Yes.
Which sad. We don't want dogs getting bit and attacked. At the same time, a little bit funny, mostly because as you watch the one clip, the dog is like sitting on the crappiest little metal chair. Like it's not even like a throne. Like it's literally like the one you go and
like
grab
a folding metal chair.
Yeah, you go and grab that one out of like the back room at your church when you ran out of chairs for something. You're like, we need a chair,
Yes.
and you go and grab.
Yeah.
It looks, the ones that are always dented and rusty, and that's what they set the dog on. Just sat there and he just stared at him while he did one move, and then that was it.
And I think there was a lady standing there with Scooby as well. I guess to make sure
making sure he didn't. Yeah, well, making sure he didn't try to. I mean, he was probably chomping at the bit. To get into the action, but he had a bum wheel. He wasn't able to. A really unfortunate, but also sneakily funny moment of his whole run was that the dog just sitting there on that. I mean, get him a cushioned chair for crying out loud.
Yeah.
I mean, where's
his dog bed?
Yeah,
where's his dog bed?
Season 2, the budget wasn't what it is today. Nowadays, they would have had like people fanning him and feeding him like treats and stuff while he sat there. But back in, what year was that? 2008?
7, 8. Yeah, I think it was 7.
Right in that area. Back then.
Yeah.
Sorry, Scoops. You're sitting on the metal chair, and it's all we can afford right now. So that was kind of the beginning and the end of his season 2 run. There was Sharon did talk about him, or there was a little bit of a comment after the Vegas round. She was disappointed because we couldn't see the dog, and she was right. I mean, that was the bummer. That was the whole point. And the Hoff, he wanted him to go through. He was still he still won me over. Like, he still pulled it off for me. He said, the Hoff was all in on the Stoinev train, but unfortunately, I'm sure Piers hopped in and said no.
Yeah, I think either they didn't understand the hand balancing act. It was early AGT. I don't think they had many hand balancers. He might have been one of the first few at that time. And then to introduce a dog into the act, I'm not sure if they just didn't fully understand its difficulty and complexity, and then how much people enjoy the dog, how much people enjoy Scooby, and to see Scooby up on his, pretty much standing on his feet while he's upside down. Yeah. So,
yeah, too bad. But that's kind of the end. I'm always curious. So it's over for him. He comes back season 9. I'm always curious the thought process for somebody of like, well, I'm going to try it again. And like, if you're the people at AGT, are you like, haven't we seen this guy before? Like, what's that whole process like? I'm intrigued.
Well, they'd already had some people in season 2 that were in season 1.
Sure.
I mean, Leonid the Magnificent came back, and he was a big joke act in season 1, and he came back and did it again in season 2. So
yeah, I mean, it's not totally uncommon that it happens.
Yeah.
But okay, so season 9 now, he's 22 now, roughly, and he's back, and his audition excuse me, his audition, no dog for his season 9 audition.
Right.
He leaves Scooby probably on some metal chair in the backstage, just sitting there whimpering, and instead, he flies solo for his audition. He comes out in his, he's got a top hat on. What do you call the jacket he was wearing? It was a suit jacket, but it had some.
I mean, look like a tuxedo. Look like a tuxedo jacket. It didn't have
but it had the long tail. Yeah, it had the long tail. So is that just a tuxedo jacket?
I think that's a tuxedo jacket
with a tail.
Yeah.
Like, is that right? Okay. I didn't know if it had its own name. It seems like something you'd always see on like a Titanic, something you see on like the Titanic.
Yeah, it was big on the show Downton Abbey.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't watch. Yeah. But so basically he comes out and he's just gonna do a run of the mill and balancing act. And what he actually starts with a pretty slick move, and it's the finger in the bottle and basically balancing on his one finger in a bottle. Now, do you think there's any tomfoolery happening here? Is that bottle anchored pretty strike? That thing is, you're running a pretty big risk there. That you have to have some pretty big trust in that bottle.
Yeah. Now you talk about tomfoolery. If you weighted the bottle, I don't consider that tomfoolery.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah,
if he's got a wire attached to him, that's tomfoolery.
yeah.
I
Okay,
I
yeah,
think if you weighted the bottle appropriately so that it can balance much better, I think that's okay. It's still you still have to have some pretty amazing strength
well, it has to
to stick your
hurt.
finger in a bottle. It does have to hurt, but also,
Yeah.
I mean, your finger up through your arm and your upper
Hmm.
body has to be so strong anyway. I don't think what the bottle is doing even matters.
Yeah, I think um, it has to hurt that upper knuckle. I mean, it's
Yeah,
full weight. Like in
yeah.
the, I don't know how far his finger got into the bottle, but I'm assuming it's past that middle knuckle where your finger actually bends. I think
Mhm.
he got past that, but that was probably his single most impressive acrobatic move, if you ask me. Of just because I don't know where the strength even kind of like is it does he have awesome hand strength? Is that is I don't know. It's
Yeah.
really it's kind of a one of a kind. I've never seen that replicated on here, but um, then he does that trick and it gets the people watching. Then he moves to then he loses the jacket. He's like done with that. Much to the pleasure of Melanie Brown, Miss Mel B.
Yes.
She was
Miss Thirsty Mel
clamoring.
B.
Yeah, this is not the first. This is not the last time we're gonna see Mel B clamoring for shirtless Christian. So he loses the jacket. Then he brings out the classic balancers, that the little blocks on the metal poles that you put your hands on and balance. He's done that, and he does a pretty slick trick with that too, where he's on one hand and then he like switches to the other hand onto the same block. A pretty impressive little move there. Then he's doing two hands, he's spinning around, and then he finishes with a little somersault off the platform to a big standing ovation. The judges really liked it. Cody, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I really liked it too. You know, especially since he started off with the shock value of the finger. He just went straight to it. He didn't
Yeah,
even work up to it. He's like, this is what I'm leading off with.
right.
Uh, and so I really like that. The blocks were very impressive. We've seen a lot of hand balancers and contortionists do that particular trick. And then, is this the one where he pushed him away? So he pushed him away and eventually got down, or does that
Yeah, I
come late?
think
I think that may come
that might be
later.
later. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
later.
yeah.
But I actually thought this was the best performance
Okay,
of his season.
yeah.
At least from an acrobatic trick standpoint, I thought he did some cool stuff later. But this one, I thought from start to finish, and interestingly enough, no dog in this one, and I still thought it was
Right.
the best one. The judges, I scored it a 3.8. It doesn't get any better for him after that. The judges were pretty complimentary. Um, Howard said that the acrobat, it's in your blood. You're representing the five generations that came before you. You're in pretty good shape. Well done. Pretty good shape. A little bit of a understatement from him there. Heidi said, "You've shown us things we have not seen, and it was very exciting." Mel B said that she said, "You didn't need the jacket. You read my mind, took it off. Thank you." Very suspect behavior from Mel B throughout this season. Howie said, "How much do you weigh?" 180 pounds. I probably would have guessed around there. I
Okay.
don't think they seemed like, I don't know if Howie was shocked because he could hold himself up at that weight or that he was actually that weight, but I thought that seemed like a reasonable weight for him looking at him. And then he commented on the switch hand thing where he was on the one and then he'd switch hands, and how that was
Mhm.
really unique. And he eventually does get four yeses. And that's kind of the audition for Christian Stoinev in season 9. Any other thoughts?
Yeah. So you are our what, food specialist, health specialist? What is your?
Yeah, I'm well. You name it, I'm probably our specialist at
Okay.
this point. Outside of oldie music,
Okay.
uh, um, harmonicas. Jay is far and away our harmonica expert.
Yes. Okay.
Clogging.
Okay. Well,
I'm not
that's
that.
of course, yeah.
Yeah, and spoken word poetry is also
It's
more your
okay.
thing. After that, we seem to turn to me a lot of times
Yeah.
for. But what
So what do you think his body fat level is?
low. I
Low,
would say it's
low. Yes, low.
under 7%, probably
Okay.
closer to like 4.
Okay.
Which is good. That's a good BMI. If I'm being fair, and as we know, Cody, I am the fairest man on the internet.
Yeah.
That's a good BMI. It's a good BMI.
Yeah. Okay. So I am looking at the picture here of his very first trick where he's got the finger, and it looks like he is up to that first knuckle.
Okay. Okay.
So, and he's wearing white gloves. We should point out he's also wearing white gloves.
Yeah. What's in those gloves, Cody? Is there something going on there? Are they are they magic gloves?
Yeah. Do they have some sort of sticky, or like is it making his finger stiff?
Yeah, he's probably wearing those so it doesn't shred all of his skin completely off his finger.
Yeah. Yes.
I would imagine is the thought process.
Yes. There. So yeah, I'm quite impressed. We won't get Scooby until later on.
Yeah, and again, it's a good solid balancing act. It's not my type of entertainment just in general, this whole thing, which doesn't I usually try to separate what entertains me from what actually is impressive talent, and I can see no doubt that what he is and does is certainly impressive. The strength is remarkable.
Yeah. Now I think in Champions, or maybe even last season, we had the Masaudi brothers, and we also had the Bello sisters. The Bello sisters, yeah.
And remember the 80-year-old guy? Yes. Was that season? Yeah. He looked like the grandpa from Up.
Yes.
Yeah. I didn't say a ton of things about that act on Twitter that year because I thought they were just getting. I went full in on the. Hey, you guys only like him because he's old, and I didn't really like that. Okay. But that's maybe we'll rewatch them someday, Cody.
Yeah, probably maybe. Add it to the list.
Yeah, let's move on then to his back then called Judgment Week. This was the season before Golden Buzzers, for the last season without Golden Buzzers. Just a little aside there. Judgment Week. This is now the dog appears, and all 4 judges were not around in season 2, so none of them knew him. None of them knew about Scooby before he brings out Scooby. So he brings out the dog. He starts on 2 hands.
And I will say it had been 7 years. I bet there were a lot of viewers that didn't even remember.
Yeah. I mean, you literally rewatched him in 2017 in preparation for a podcast that didn't happen, Cody. And you didn't recognize him in season 2.
No.
Rewatch. So
yes.
I don't think anybody was like, oh, he's back. Not to knock him. It's just 7 years, and 7 years older looks a lot different, all of that.
Yeah.
So this one, he starts doing 2-hand balancing. He moves kind of side to side with one hand. And then he does actually a pretty slick little move. He does kind of like a somersault into an underhand. And he's holding on, like straight legged out, holding on to the 2 blocks with each hand, really showing off at that point. At that point, he's just sort of showing off the strength. Then the dog hops out of the box, the dog gets there's no crowd because it's Judgment Week and they didn't have a crowd back then. So it didn't get a big round of applause like it would have if there was a crowd. And then the dog kind of crawls around his neck. Then it's followed by the 2 tricks that he does every time with the dog. He somersaults and the dog runs on him kind of like a hamster on a wheel as he somersaults into a handstand with the dog balancing on his feet. And that's the performance. The judges seem to like it. Howard asks him, basically it's just Howard. He goes, what's the dog's name? Scooby. And he asked if Howard said, did you bring the dog because you ran out of balancing tricks by yourself? And that was the extent of the judge comments from this round. What stood out to you at all in his Judgment Week performance?
I do like it when he brings Scooby out. It does become a dog act, but I do like it. It adds another element to his performance. We've seen these hand balancers do almost the same thing. We see Silk. We got real excited last season when Deadly Games' brother came out and did something else besides the Silks later on.
What is his name, by the way? We should probably get that.
We should probably get that.
What was his name?
We'll fact check.
I know the name. I'll check it.
Yeah,
I know that name.
Yes, so it's Deadly Games' brother. And so when you have some of these types of acts that are one-dimensional, it's nice when they bring out another element, and it's even nicer for us dog lovers when they bring out a dog.
Alan Jones Silva.
There you go. So it's great when, especially, Scooby's this cute little chihuahua. He's the perfect size for an act
Yeah.
like this.
Yeah, no, you're not getting a
It's
Great Dane or a Newfoundland
uh,
for this.
yeah, no,
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
a
German
shepherd.
Shepherd. Yeah,
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 you're,
not a great call.
no. You're gonna get Pekingese or Chihuahua
Yeah,
or something like
yeah,
that
something along
in
those
this.
lines.
But it's even better he when you train a dog to climb up you and basically stay on you like a cat. It's basically what
Right.
a cat does. And
Yes.
then and then you go upside down on a handstand, and then he goes and stands up on your feet.
Yeah.
And then to understand that balance, understand that trust is absolutely incredible.
hmm Yeah, and I referenced. I think as we go along here, there's a repetitious sort of part of his performances that end up sort of wearing on me, just in terms of it just seems like the same stuff. And that's not to knock the talent by any means. I didn't hate this performance. The dog adds, it did add something, but also I felt like this one didn't have as much as the first one, in kind of an odd sort of contradiction there.
Yeah.
I scored it a
Well,
three six.
and if you remember, it's Judge Cuts, Judgment Week, Vegas Round,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it. So everything's much shorter. Everything's way more
Yes.
condensed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So certainly good enough to send him through. He's off to the live shows. And at this point, I think America's starting to get kind of excited about Scooby and the idea
Yes.
that there could be a good dog. We're 2 years removed from the great Elate dogs winning.
Yes.
America is starving for another dog act, starving to fall in love with another dog act like them and Cody both fell in love with the Olate dogs season
Yes.
7. And
Yes.
here we are. The long 2-year nightmare might be over for America. We might have another dog
Yeah.
that they can get behind. So
And
we're
and as of the recording of this particular podcast, we just eliminated a dog act from season 2
mm,
that did not do much of anything in their semifinals round.
yeah. So Cody is pretty. I mean, he's pretty vicious when it comes to his judgment of dog acts. You have to really bring
I
it to win him
like
over.
dog acts. I just didn't think they were a winning AGT act. That's my defense.
Cody, I mean, Cody has a T-shirt that says "Latte Dogs" with a circle and a line through it that he wears. Like, he's got a handful of them. He gives them out to people for Christmas over the years. Like, hey, get on board. No latte dogs.
Hey, you better be careful. We might sell that as merchandise. You better be careful.
Not a bad idea. I have some ideas, but if we do want to do a merch meeting at some point, I certainly have a few pitches I'd like to make. Okay, let's move to the quarterfinals. Where was the quarterfinals? Where were the live shows this year? Must be Radio City.
They were in Radio City. Yes.
Yeah. So we're off to Radio City Music Hall. He starts. This one is actually kind of a fun one. So he starts with 4 blocks stacked on top of the main blocks that with the sticks, and so he's on top, and they're not anchored. So he really has to be balanced here because that stack could just fall. And what he does is he throws one off and then rebalances. And then on his left hand, he throws that one. And then the right hand until he gets down to the bottom. Clearly an impressive move, kind of throwing him off one by one. Then we see the dog enter. He balances on the blocks with the dog on his back. So he's kind of parallel to the ground and the dog's on his back. And then the dog starts doing the little dancing with his paws, kind of going back and forth, up and down. The crowd at this point,
they're eating it up.
Yeah, the dog has them wrapped around his paw at this point.
Yeah.
His unbitten paw, his healed paw, and then the dog just runs back in the box, and that's kind of it. That's sort of how the extent of the tricks for that one goes. There's 2 good tricks there. The blocks where he's throwing them aside is good, and the dog balancing and doing the dance on his back are both good tricks. Thoughts on his quarterfinals?
Yeah, they even talked about in the intro package that Scooby is now a star. He's basically a diva.
Mm-hmm.
He's like,
Was
hey,
that
get out
that
of my
one or was that
way.
semis?
It
It might have
might
been
have
that
been
one.
semis. It might have been this
One of the
one.
two. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going back and looking here, and they're walking through the streets of
Yeah.
New York
He's getting the
City,
steak
and
at the restaurant.
yeah, yeah, and he's getting a bath and all that stuff, getting ready for the live shows.
Well, this is because they
Um,
felt bad about putting him on the metal chair in season 2. They started treating him with some respect he deserves.
yeah, he's a Rodney Dangerfield here. Show me no
Yeah,
respect.
hey. Yeah.
But yeah, I really enjoyed this. At the end of the act, Scooby's walking back to his box on the front two paws, and
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah,
Yeah,
these are
that
some
was
good.
good little move.
Yeah, so these are some good tricks. This was the blocks I talked about early on where he pushed him out of the way. So
Yep.
that's real impressive. Balancing on one hand with Scooby on his back, that's all really impressive.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the trust between Christian and Scooby that just adds a whole new level to this. It's not your typical dog act where they're jumping through hoops or jumping over obstacles. It's he's 10 or 15 feet in the air.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and just on basically the width of Christian's feet,
Yep.
and making sure that Christian makes one wrong move and Scooby falls down.
Right. Judges comments. Mel B said she was worried for the dog because she didn't want him to fall. And she says this is all about the dog. Wow, brilliant. Didn't want it to stop. Heidi says it's one of the best things she's seen in a long time. This is her favorite night. Great performance and loved it. Howard said this was his favorite act of the night. Loved it. Your level of expertise, you're dynamic, magical, and you make us feel good. And Howie comes in hot. So Howie says, I've been doing this for 5 years. This is the best night of AGT in the history of the show. Big praise.
Yeah.
I don't know what the rest of that night looked like. He tells everybody to vote. You're amazing. You're strong. And adding the dog has really upped your game pretty much.
Yeah. I can say this, commenter, that when I was going through these and I was kind of scrubbing through the episodes,
mm-hmm.
I saw Matt Franco a lot in the episodes that Christian was in. So it's like he and Matt and Christian were matched up in a lot of the together. Same. It seemed like they did. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, Matt's terrific. So he certainly plays into the best night ever. I feel like season 9 quarterfinals is not the best night ever in the history of AGT. I'm going to push back even to that point. There's no way that one of the previous 8 finals wasn't better than season 9 quarterfinal. One of the season 9 quarterfinals, Howie.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we all know I'm partial to season 11 finale is the best night in the history. But
we're not
at
season 11. We're not at season 11.
Right.
Yet,
so for all I know, he's right. Maybe I'll have to go. I mean, he's selling it. He's making me want to go back watch the whole night because apparently it's the best ever.
Yeah.
But the judges like him. The judges like the dog. And that's sort of the gist of his quarterfinals. I think probably safe to say easily through to the next round. America's starting to sort of fall in love with Christian and probably moreover Scooby. Anything else you want to throw onto this performance?
No, I think it was it was pretty good. Yeah.
Okay. So off to the semifinals, he does. So they do a little interesting thing here. So they start with a Top Gun theme.
Yeah.
And we start with Danger Zone. Now, before you say anything, I'm gonna bet a heavy wager that this is on the Cody Patterson playlist.
Yes. Danger Zone has been on the playlist for decades. I want to say
a great song, a great movie. Top Gun. I'm assuming you're a Top Gun fan.
I am a Top Gun fan. I had the Top Gun album. I don't know if I still have the album. I had the album at one point.
Is it just Danger Zone, like all over, just on repeat?
No. It's not just Danger Zone. The Top Gun theme is really good.
Okay, sure.
That they play at the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Was it Playing with the Boys? That's a good song.
Okay. Yep. What's the one they sing in? What's the one that Goose and them sing in the bar?
Yeah. So that's the. Is that the right? It's either Everly
Great Balls of Fire.
Righteous Brothers. No, it's not great. No. You're talking about in the bar.
Yeah.
To the girls. No. It was like Everly Brothers or Righteous Brothers.
When do they sing Great Balls of Fire?
I'm
pretty sure Goose sings that song.
I think it may be just them hanging out. Maybe it might be
Am I
at
thinking
the
the wrong
point of
movie?
if they do sing it, it's at the point where like he and Meg Ryan are kind of goofing around, like just the four of them,
They're in
like just
those.
goofing
Here it
around.
is. They're in the bar, and Goose is playing the piano. They're probably not singing to the girls yet,
Okay.
but him and Maverick are sitting there singing "Great Balls of Fire."
Okay. The
Okay.
the big one is the kind of in that same scene a couple minutes later where they sing either Righteous Brothers or Everly Brothers, and they're
Okay.
singing it to like the whole. So
Yeah. Okay. One of the great
there we go.
romantic scenes
There's
too. And
Top Gun talk for you.
yeah, that's one of the great romantic scenes in the history of
Yeah.
movies as well.
Yes.
In that movie,
We're not gonna
1986.
yeah, we're not gonna spoil the big event in Top Gun though.
Spoiler
For
alert
those,
on 1986 Top Gun. Here,
yeah.
if you haven't seen it, I think we've given you enough time to watch it before the spoilers. But yeah,
Before
okay.
Top Gun 2 comes out.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, you're right. 1986. How old were you in 86, Cody?
What part of 86 was this in?
That's a good question.
Was this a summer movie?
It was 16th of May, 1986.
Yeah, I was 8. I was
okay.
8.
I was
so,
negative. I was negative nine and
yeah.
a half.
Yeah, I was 8. I remember it coming out. It was a big deal when it came out. And,
yeah. Tom Cruise was kind of on a heater at this point.
His career was on the upswing at that point.
Yeah. Okay. So there's Top Gun. Anyway, I mean, you had to bet if you're a listener of this and you have watched that semifinal performance, you had to have known when you turned this on that you were going to get a Top Gun tangent, considering the opening of his semifinals. It was bound to happen. Okay, so and it's weird. It's like a weird cinematic thing that they did, where like the performance was started with them doing like a skit video of them flying and jumping out. Like at first I was like, is this the continuation of the pre-performance film? Like what's happening? And then it turns out that was like part of the whole performance. Scooby rolls out in the fighter jet. Is it an F-16? I think is what we call it. And Christian starts on the blocks. Then they get into the dog, or they start on the blocks. Then they get into the dog somersaults, which again, play the hits, I guess. Then the dog balance on the feet, again, bread and butter. And then Christian does a pretty slick move. He does the hand walking on the blocks. A pretty cool little move. And then
again, the trust between him and Scooby, because he's moving. So,
and then the dog does his own little. He's kind of got a little solo there. He does a couple tricks, and then, boom, Shin Lim effect. We get a little magic twist here. Boom, out of nowhere, a second dog, Scooby 2. Matt
Franco Matt Franco was teaching him a few tricks.
Scooby 2. For those pun lovers at home, here's your moment, and that's the end. They don't really do anything with the second dog. The aura, the appeal is that they just look the same. It's not really a trick, but fun nonetheless.
Yeah.
If one dog's fun, what's more fun than one dog? Two dogs.
That's right. Two dogs. That's right.
Thoughts on their semifinals?
Yeah, and I'm kind of watching it here as we're talking, and that second dog, he didn't look like he's quite ready for prime time. He comes out of the box. So. He's kind of freaked out by the by everything that's going on.
Dog in headlights.
Yes, pretty much. Okay. And he's kind of trying to figure out what's going on there. But I like this. I like the theme. You got theming. You got a couple of fighter pilots standing in the background there. So you got some a little bit of stage production going on there. You bring out a second dog. Yeah, obviously, what's better than one dog, two dogs. I mentioned the trust between he and Scooby. He's moving while bouncing on his hands. So for Scooby not to completely freak out and jump off is just absolutely incredible. So his hand balancing is great, but then you add in the dog factor, and I just can't say it enough. It's, he's, we're probably going to get to it, but he's not like a top tier act, but he's a great hand balancer. You got the dog element animal element that's involved here. And that, I enjoy that. I really enjoy that.
Yeah. So. I mean, you look and at the comments, this is where things sort of get a little bit dramatic for Christian. The judges were not impressed.
No.
And I walked away. So as I watched this today, Cody sent me all the links to each one, and I got prepared for this afternoon. And at this point, like during the semifinal performance, I literally said, like, under my breath, sitting by myself, this is just a dog act. Like this is just like this isn't even a hand balancing act anymore. It's a dog act. And not 2 minutes later, the judges basically saying, I mean, Howard goes, this is a dog act now. Like this is why it's just become a dog act. I mean, your dogs are multiplying. Are you producing them? Like you have two now. Howard is really stern. Not ooh. Here we go.
Oh, wow. Good job.
Wow. That one is bad. Howard gets pretty stern with old Christian and says, you're too relaxed and sure of yourself. He does say something interesting, which for us, I know we've done multiple times when we rewatch people trying to figure out, or even in the what if, was someone actually like a contender to win? From what Howard said, he was a front runner at this point. Howard said, you're a front runner, and I think you're too relaxed and sure of yourself. This was not your best night. You're a strength act, not a dog act. Mel B says,
but if he only does the strength part, I don't think it's not memorable.
And that's the whole point that gets made by the judges, is there is, within this balancing act, there is a balance. Mel B says, I love Scooby and I love you. I needed some more. It was a little bit flat. Heidi says she could watch you over and over. Her kids are obsessed with Scooby. You guys are great and cute. Howie says, you're confident. You grabbed the audience. You performed at the level needed. And Christian, you were good too, which kind of encapsulates everybody's feeling at home that this has turned into sort of the Scooby show a little bit more. And I can't remember if it's Mel B or Howard that makes the point of, there is this balance that you're having to make right now of how much does it need to be about the dog and how much does it need to be about the balancing and the acrobat, and finding that perfect balance. I think it peaked in the quarterfinals for him. I think that was probably his performance where he had the best balance between the two. I walked away from this one feeling the same way the judges did, that it was a little bit flat. It was kind of boring. It wasn't super long, didn't have a ton of tricks, and it felt mostly about the dog. And it was so gimmicky for me when you add the fighter pilot jet and all of that. At this point, it felt like I was watching a dog act.
Now, first off, Mel B would never say something that insightful. So that must have been a Howard comment.
I think it might have been Mel B though. Mel B sneakily, with musicians, she tends to add some good, because that's her livelihood. But it probably was Howard, but I'll have to go back and look again. I'm a Mel B defender. I loved Mel B as a judge.
Okay.
A lot of people didn't, which I get. She's a little bit. Well, in this season, she was a little bit, dirty, as we talked about.
Thirsty, very, very, very thirsty.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, it probably was Howard. But your thoughts on this, on the judges, really?
I like the theming. I think it's always great when they do some sort of theming. Whenever an act just comes out and it's just them with their little apparatus, it's boring to me. Sure. I want a little bit of theme. I want a little bit. I'm known for my stage production.
Yes. I mean, yeah, you are easily persuaded by flair, as we know.
Yes. But also, I mean, if this is an entertainment show, it's not a thought-provoking show. It's not something you're supposed to for deep thought. It's an entertainment show. So I want something that's going to give me a lot of entertainment. And when you just come out and you're just doing your one simple apparatus, that's not good entertainment for me. Yep. I want flair, I want fire, I want other stuff going on. So when you kind of do your little themes here, I mean, the dogs are wearing camo dog collars.
The
dog collars. Yeah, they're wearing camo dog collars. So
yeah, I mean, they fully committed to the.
They did. They had fighter pilots standing in the background. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was good judging, just because they kind of said what I was feeling as I watched it. Maybe they were slightly harsh we kind of see the fruition of that in his next performance. I think we can move on to that performance actually.
Yeah.
Top 12. So like I referenced earlier, it was top 12 and then top 6. So this is the super semifinals.
So would he have been comfortable in the season 2 finals with a top 10, a top 8, and a top 4?
No, no. I think not. But I love the start of this one because he takes the criticism and he plays on it here. So the opening of it is him as like a cop trying to arrest the dog, and it says wanted for stealing the show. The dog is wanted for stealing the show.
Well, you missed you ignored the part at the beginning where they had Scooby sitting on Howard's lap.
Yes, yeah. This was from the film, the production beforehand.
Okay.
Oh yeah, so yeah, you're right. So before the pre-performance video,
yes,
Scooby is not even allowed on stage.
Yeah.
There's a chance that was Scooby 2, and they're just doing the old switcheroo, the old Parent Trap on us here. And we're getting actually just Scooby 2 in the crowd, and because there's still some dog tricks here, and I don't think he trained Scooby 2 really quickly, so I'm pretty sure Scooby 2 is in the crowd.
I think you're correct because I'm looking at the picture with Howard, and Scooby 2 has more of a wider face than regular Scooby. Scooby's
and
more of
a darker fur, I think.
Yes.
I thought a little bit.
The dog with the lighter, whiter fur is sitting in Howard's lap.
Okay, yeah. So I think Scooby 2. They say it's Scooby. They Parent Trapped us here. Good enough. Yes. So we're leading off the show, kind of playing into the hey, pull the reins back on the whole dog act thing. The dog is wanted for stealing the show, but then the start of the whole performance is the dog on a ball, like balancing. It's like, okay, well, all right, well, whatever. So the dog is doing his ball balance trick. Then the dog goes into the box, kind of as the hey, this is my show. What are you doing? He goes up onto his own like platform thing. And starts doing his one hand balance, and he's spinning. He's got kind of his legs split in the air like the YMCA, and he's doing a spin, and then he starts doing so he's got 3 blocks kind of in a row, and he starts on the far left 2, and then he jumps to the next 2, and it's a smooth little move. Then he's picking up the blocks, taking them off, and he eventually gets rid of 2 of the blocks in their stands. And he's doing his jump switch thing that everybody loved so much in his audition. And then he finishes with a little flare, a little back flip to finish off the stage onto the mat. The dog is very much not featured after his little cameo at the beginning. And that's the top 12 performance. Thoughts?
So first off, I think you should completely ignore what the judges say. And if Scooby's going to be part of this act, Scooby needs to be part of this act.
Mm-hmm.
And just not, I know they're saying that it's a dog act. Own it. Let it be a dog act. Scooby is part of this performance. Is part of the show. I'm going to say Scooby's part of the show. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I agreed with the judges that it started to feel like a dog act, and he needed to make a choice of what he was. I had no problem with focusing a little bit more on the acrobatics in this one, just because I felt like that what impresses me. But you need to use the dog as part of it too. Like you can't just abandon the dog entirely. And that was basically the judges' comments. So it's pretty funny. The first thing that Heidi talks about is we needed some more dog. Right after we just got done talking about the judges were sick of the dog. It's are you Forgetting Sarah Marshall? Have you ever seen that movie with
I think I saw it once.
Okay. It's one of the great Sunday afternoon, you're flipping through channels and it always seems to be on like TBS or one of those great movies. And there's a scene, it's Paul Rudd and Jason Segel, 2 of the funnier guys. And Paul Rudd is supposed to be teaching him how to surf. And he's a total idiot. Like, that's his whole shtick. He's just the dumbest person, but he's the surf instructor. And he's like, okay, the key to surfing is not doing anything. Like, just let the waves do it for you. And so he's like laying on the board. He's like, all right, pop up. And he stands up. He's like, you're doing too much. Pop back down. Pop up. Still doing too much. Do nothing. Pop up. And he just stays laying on the board, because at this point he's sick of being told to do nothing. And the guy's like, well, you got to do more than that. And this is kind of the same thing. Get rid of the dog. He gets rid of the dog. I need a little more dog.
Yeah.
Same sort of idea. But Heidi does say, you are an amazing hand balancer, but we do need more dog. She said, we need a 50-50 between you and the dog. Mel B liked this performance. She said, one of the best to date. There was danger. I was entertained. And Scooby is a cutie patootie. Howie said it was amazing. You stepped it up. And Howard said he was pleased. You're a smart entertainer. This was brilliant. You came off like $1 million act. I think Heidi really is the only one encapsulating the actual feeling of Americans in this judging. From what I could probably guess, I wasn't watching this season. I would imagine America was showing up for his performances for Scooby more than for Christian. And she seems like the only one who actually hit on that as, hey, I get making sure you're featured, but we need dog in this act.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah. And that was the end of the road for Christian. And I think that probably is, an endorsement for what Heidi was saying. America rejecting him sort of and saying, all right, top 12 is as far as you're going to get here. It was a good run, though, for a hand balancer, especially to make it to the top 12. Anything else you want to say just in general about his performances from season 9?
No, I enjoyed this, but I think I probably enjoyed it more with Scooby than he is a great hand balancer. I do enjoy watching him, but I enjoy watching it with Scooby.
Hand balancing is limited. It's a limited.
Yeah, it's very limited.
Especially solo hand balancing.
Yes.
And so you need to have some other tricks up your sleeve. And when you have a dog that you can add in it, that's a pretty good trick to have up your sleeve. So let's do the champions performance really quickly, and then we'll move on to our categories to finish here. I think we're just closing in on an hour, so I think we're doing okay for time. So his champions performance, he's a little bit older, a little bit buffer now. This would be 6 years later. He's probably 28 in this performance.
Yes, I would probably say that's about right. Yep.
Yeah, he's got a new dog. And the best part of this whole thing, I shouldn't say that because this was a good performance. He opens it basically leading in with that this dog is dead, Scooby. Like, that's the whole aura that he's giving off. Like,
Scooby has crossed the
like he has
Scooby has crossed the Rainbow Bridge.
Like, he takes a moment to gather himself because he's breaking, trying to talk about Scooby, and then they're like, "Well, we're so sorry for your loss." Like, oh, he's not dead. What are you guys talking about? He's totally fine. He's just retired from performing. Kind of a sneaky little move there by Christian by making us all think that Scooby had passed.
I think they say he's 17 at this point.
16 at that point.
That's old for a dog. That's really old for a dog.
Especially for one that's been doing what he's been doing for 7 years up. He said he retired right after season, the season. So it took it out of him, I guess. He had it with the criticism from Howard Stern. He said, I don't have to put up with this. I'm just a dog. So new dog, Percy.
Percy, yeah.
So now we have
not
Christian
Scooby 2.
Percy. No, Scooby 2. I have questions.
Maybe he didn't cut it.
I have questions about Scooby 2 because I'm not buying that he's actually Christian. I think they just brought in a ringer dog.
Yeah,
like they went to the local pet store and was like, hey, we need see this dog. We need one more. We need one just like it. And then once the show was over, Scooby 2 went on his merry way and didn't actually go to the Stoinev household. But that's a conspiracy theory.
Let me ask you this: is Scooby the stunt person and Scooby 2's the actual Scooby?
Oh, so you think
like the Scooby 2, like is Scooby 2 the actor and Scooby was the stunt person?
No, I think Scooby is his dog that does
Okay.
this, and Scooby 2
Okay.
they just brought in to put in that box for the makeshift magic
And,
trick to finish
and
his
make him
quarterfinals.
make him freak out.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yes,
Wow.
exactly.
It's pretty
Okay,
dark there.
yeah. So Percy is the new dog. Scooby 2 is no longer with us. Scooby is not with us on the stage, but he's still alive. I mean,
We
been a
don't know
year.
what the condition of Scooby is today.
He's been a year. He's be at least 17 now.
Yeah.
He's a chihuahua. Is that what we said?
Yes.
Let's look at the average lifespan of a chihuahua. 12 to 20 years.
Okay.
So
That's a big gap though.
So yeah, it is a big gap.
Yeah.
But that's the life expectancy. I guess the people who are calculating that are giving themselves quite a bit of wiggle room. So people whose
Yeah.
chihuahuas passed they don't have to get like, I only made it to 12. Well, that's the life expectancy. So all right. Or one that's like, he's still alive. He's 18. Why is he?
Mine lived to be 20. Well, that's still life expectancy too.
That's within the window. They're like weathermen. They're basically like weathermen. It's like, oh, it could rain. Might not. It didn't rain today. There was a change that we didn't see coming.
Yeah.
Okay. So new dog Percy. He starts actually with a slick little move. He's got 5 blocks now stacked on top of the original block on the stand, and he throws them all away at once with both hands, and then lands with his 2 hands on the blocks that are anchored. A hard move watching it. It looked like it hurt. Like, it looked like it hurt to land, and it looked like he really struggled to stay up. If you watch that, a pretty cool move. Then the dog comes out. He just goes back to the well. Somersaults with the dog, handstand with the dog on his feet, one hand on the block with the dog on his back, doing the dancing again, and then he does a backflip to finish. It's literally everything we've seen him do before. He does again. I think it's actually better. I think he's a better performer at this point. And that first trick was really good, but ultimately, it's more of the same here. Anything that stands out to you from this?
Nothing stands out. The stage production on this is, they've upped their game on stage production since season 9.
Yeah, so, especially from season 2. No metal chairs to be found on Champions 2, baby. So judges, this would be Champions 2. So it's Howie, Howie, Heidi, Alicia Dixon, who, by the way, I think she's terrific, and I really wish she was a permanent judge for America's Got Talent. And
could she do both? Could she do both?
Simon does. Why can't she?
I guess so.
Yeah, I really wish. She'd be great. All right. Heidi says, when the dog dances, it's the cutest thing. You're perfect. Howie says, I remember you. I love you. I'm a fan of you. And you're even better than you were before. Alicia said, this got better as it went along. You two are a match made in heaven. Fantastic. Well done. Simon says he's never seen a dog balance and dance at the same time. Simon, this guy was on your show before doing in the dog, a different dog doing it. But anyway.
And also, hasn't like every dog act that's been on done some sort of dancing?
Yeah. He said, Percy's fantastic. I love the act. You guys are amazing. Simon's a sucker for a dog act. So you can kind of take his comments on those with a grain of salt a little bit. But ultimately, people liked him on the judges panel. I should say the super fans, the 50 states, ultimately didn't think he was good enough to finish in the top 2 or top 3, 2?
Top 2, yes.
2, whatever it was.
There were 5.
They might have done 3 in the second one, because there was like a semifinal. I can't remember. It's an odd layout. Champions probably doesn't need to come back. That's probably a different thing we can hash out at some point. But Champions, I like the idea of it, but after the first season, it was kind of useless because they used all of the really good acts in the first season, and then it was like, well, now we're bringing back a Vegas round second season / top 12 season 9 guy to be in it, and it just sort of went sideways in season 2, which is too bad. And a non-winner from literally the season that just happened won champions too. So the legitimacy of the season 2 of champions victory is a little bit in question. But ultimately, I thought just a nice act, but not good enough on champions to go through. Anything else you want to add to Christian's?
No.
Okay, let's move on to our segments. Most rewatchable moment. Do you have one for this that's something that stuck out to you during his 8 times you saw him?
I think mainly his audition for season 9 is probably very rewatchable.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that has Scooby is always rewatchable.
Yeah.
So.
I think there's probably 2 little moments, probably the finger in the bottle one.
Yeah, that's what.
And then the first time the dog does the dancing on his back, I think America kind of ate that up. Those are probably the 2 biggest moments for him. Best judge moment. There was actually some important judging during. We've done rewatchables where the judging is completely useless. There's not a single constructive thing said, mostly because what are they going to add? It was winners, some of the best we've ever seen. They don't really have anything, that they can add to Shin Lim or, Tom Cotter or some of these ones we've done in the past where it's going to be just heavily, nice judging, I guess is the word.
Well, unless it's Bianca Ryan with Piers. Piers has always got something to say.
Piers, season 1 Piers is.
Season 2 Piers is pretty brutal.
Yeah, I mean, early Piers is tough. He's tough.
Yeah.
But for you, something that stood out from the judges during this that was good.
Yeah, I mean, not a whole lot, but Howard gave some good feedback of the. It's turned into a dog act. You decide if you're going to be a dog act or if you're going to be a balancing act. You need to figure that out. That's about it. Just given the good feedback, other than, oh, great job, best we've ever seen. You're a winner. Something you think of that nature. It was actually it was actual feedback.
Yeah, I thought the semifinal
and Christian's very professional in his responses. He's like, I really appreciate your feedback.
Yeah,
and then he goes into, I don't think you understand how hard this is.
Yeah.
But he is like very appreciative of the feedback.
Yeah. I think what they did in the semifinals was good because it showed America that they're not just going to sit there and pat every act on the back, even the ones that America seems to really like, if they didn't like what the act was. And I think he certainly has a gripe of, you guys don't really understand how tough this is. I think there's certainly merit to that. We saw that with Matthew Richardson 2 years ago, the guy who spun in the big hoop. And he did it with, the stage was wet, spinning in a metal hoop. And the judges were like, I mean, it was just that again. He's like, I don't think you guys realize how impossible it is to spin on water in a metal, holding on a metal hoop. And for people who don't know anything about it, they just thought it was the same old with some rain coming down. It kind of the same thing here, but ultimately I thought it was good judging that they actually said what probably was on their mind, which we don't seem to get very often anymore. It was kind of refreshing, at least, maybe.
Yeah,
because they'd done standing ovation for his first few, and then this time they didn't. They pulled it back. Bad judging moment. I had Howard saying get rid of the dog entirely, as that was bad judging.
Yeah, I could see that. My biggest thing was Mel B and Heidi being very thirsty. I just don't. I mean, we don't need to hear
they
that.
Never seen a guy without a shirt on.
Right. It's like and I think even in the audition, she says, "Oh, he doesn't need the jacket," and then he takes off.
Yeah, and then he takes it off immediately. There's a chance it was good editing. They did make it seem like the edit made it seem like they were like, "Whoa, he actually did," like right after. So I'll believe it. Yeah. But anyway, Tyra Banks Memorial Bad Hosting Moment Award. Unfortunately, everybody's favorite award. Unfortunately, we didn't have one. Neither of us did. Nick was flawless again.
He was on point. He had the was it the fedora? Was he wearing the fedora kind of off kilt?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a good chance that he's wearing some sort of headwear that's a little bit off.
No turban.
Yeah, no turban. No. That is true. So best unintentional comedy moment. So I already referenced the honorable mention, which was the dog being physically unable to perform because he got bit by a bigger dog. The true best unintentional comedy moment was before one of his live shows in season 9, in the pre-performance clips. they were getting room service in the hotel. And Christian was very, very mean to the room service attendant, the
Whoa.
room service guy. So he brought the dog and him each a meal, and he opens up Christian's, and it's like a classic meal. And then he opens up the dog's, and it's like dog food. And Christian just goes, "The dog looks better than mine." I'm like, Jesus, dude. Like, first of all, no, it doesn't. It's just a blob of like brown stuff. And second of all, I mean, maybe a thank you for the room service guy who's bringing you stuff
Yes.
literally on a silver platter. I thought that was very funny. Clearly not his actual personality. I think Christian's probably a
Yeah.
very nice guy. But I thought that was very funny. Just like a subtle jab at the hotel room service. Like, wow, my food looks worse than the dog's food, and his food looked perfectly fine.
I think he's trying to say, hey, the dog even's getting like great dog food. Like,
yeah,
this is top notch dog food.
Wow, the dog's looks better than mine. Take mine back and make me a real meal, you peasant. Like, that's what it kind of felt like. But anyway, that one made me chuckle. Let's get into do you have anything?
No, I didn't have one.
Okay. I had two, so not to brag. I kind of beat you
There
there.
You go. That's fine. I'll let you have
it. I think this is the stuff that's a little bit more important. Too high, too low, just right. So we're going to focus on season 9 here. Okay. He finishes basically bottom 12 or bottom 6 of the top 12. Do you think that's too high, too low, or just right? You probably don't know a ton about the season because this wasn't one you watched originally, from what I understand.
Yeah, I mean, I know a little bit about season 9. I don't know a whole lot. But I think it's probably just right. But looking at some of the others, like you mentioned, Matt Franco and Acro Army, I know they're supposed to be some of the top favorites, was also in this season, but probably about right. Okay. And he could have been anywhere between 7th and 12th. So it doesn't really matter, but he finished in that bottom half.
Yeah, I put too high. I just didn't think. I got a little bit bored of it by the semifinals. And it just sort of didn't grab me anymore. But I understand he had built quite a bit of currency with America up until the semifinals. So getting to the top 12 wasn't a surprise. Just right's probably a reasonable thought too. I don't think we probably need to do a little bit more into season 9. A great winner, Matt Franco, but and one that's still very popular today. But okay, was he?
I do want to say in season 2, and I probably even mentioned this during our rewatch, that I thought he got snubbed a little bit in season 2. He should have moved on after the Vegas round, but because he didn't have Scooby, that hurt him during that performance. And I think also that the judges just didn't fully understand his act.
Yeah.
We've seen some hand balancers, but I don't think they understood how good his act actually was.
Yeah. So probably too low in season 2, and I would say just right in Champions. So there we go. We got that ironed out. Right place, wrong time for him. Do you think there's any season take him, pluck him, and drop him in that he could have won? This is actually one we finally have where there's a good question of whether or not he could have. Thoughts, Cody?
Yeah. I don't know if he's a winner. Yeah. Even the 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah. So 4, 5, 6, 7 are kind of, you go Kevin Skinner, Michael Grimm, our friend Landau Eugene Murphy Jr., and your friends, the Elate Dogs, are those 4.
I don't. Well, obviously he wouldn't have won 7 because Tom Cotter would have won 7.
Should have won. We've ad nauseum gone through season 7.
So,
how that should have actually
we can remove 7 because
our friend,
we all know Tom
Cotter,
friend of the podcast, Tom Cotter should have won season 7. We know that.
Yes.
So 4, 5, 6, could he have beaten one of them? I don't know. I don't think so. I think he would have been a finalist in those seasons. He might have even been top 5. I'm not sure he would have been a winner in those seasons.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. I don't think he's better than any of the winners. 4 would be my only one I would stump for, beating Kevin Skinner. But ultimately, to me, he's a true semi/finalist, kind of his cap any season probably.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's still that's still very, very good in the grand scheme of things. Okay. Walker run. So this is actually an interesting one. because he certainly is not the best hand balancer of all time that we've seen.
Right. Yep.
I think we probably have a consensus on who is, at least solo. I think it's Sophie Dossi.
Yes, and I was going to ask, does that even, our contortionist, does that even count there? And yes, I think Sophie Dossie's probably the top of that list.
Yeah, I mean, she uses the blocks on the sticks that he uses.
Yes.
Too in hers. I put down that he walked so she could run. And a lot of people go, well, she just is hand balancing too. What kind of makes her better? I don't totally know why. She does more flexibility stuff.
She does more flexibility
she
stuff.
shoots the arrow with her feet.
Yes. And I think she even did the sky ring or whatever it's called one time.
That was the last thing. The big ring, which was really fun to watch. I think that's kind of what separates her. No, she doesn't have a dog. But ultimately the dog almost became a point of contention for Christian as it went on, and maybe even somewhat of a hindrance because everybody was so focused on if we were using the dog enough or not. It became more of a soap opera than anything for him, unfortunately.
I mean, she went to the well with her flaming arrow. Every performance.
Three or four times, and then abandoned it. I can't remember if she abandoned it for the semifinals now, but certainly for the finals. And her finals was really fun to watch. And we've talked about that one during our season 11 finals rewatch. I do want to add something. His music choice outside of Danger Zone was not fun for me. I did not enjoy the music. I don't remember what they were, which is probably a good reason as to why I didn't love it. But
was it just generic music, or was it?
Yeah, and it was kind of like I couldn't tell if it fit what he was doing or not. It kind of was like little kid music. It felt like almost, and I was like, I don't know if this. I think a little bit darker music when you're hand balancing maybe is a little bit better because there's supposed to be an element of danger, but maybe not.
Yeah. Yeah.
It made me think about remember the shooting arrow directly to the guy's neck.
Yes.
The music that was playing behind that. I don't know if you've watched it recently. I actually have a TikTok with that clip that I've posted recently, so people can go back and check it out. But it's like type music, like
circus
that kind
music.
Of stuff. Yes, like circus music. Yeah, and then he gets shot in the neck with an arrow, and it's like, man. And he's like coughing and everything, and this music is still playing in the background. I was like, that's why you just want to use the dramatic music. So when things do go awry, you can like cut the lights and it's not circus music still playing in the background. It's a pretty good rule of thumb for danger acts. But anyway, that's an aside there. But yeah, I think he sort of paved the way for somebody like Sophie Dossi.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anything else you want to add on that?
Not on that, but their stage production, the best stage production was Champions 2.
Yes.
Yeah. The Top Gun thing was pretty good.
Yeah, you had to have loved the Top Gun stuff. But okay, some history lesson stuff on him. So again, we kind of talked about the top, not a household name compared to some of the other ones we've done for this. I think not really a top tier act. When you look at acrobats, he's one of the better solo acrobats, certainly. We haven't actually had a ton of great solo acrobats. We've had like the Bellow sisters from that was last season, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Last season.
Yeah, shoot, the one with the youngest sister that was just sleeping when they were trying to find out if they won $1 million.
That's right.
Yeah. Man, the Massaudi brothers, who people really loved. They're the wettest hair in the history of AGT. Their hair was soaking wet all the time. I don't understand how. And they would always start with a shirt on and then lose it. And my point was, if your hair is that wet, you can't be wearing a shirt. Like if you ever put on a shirt with soaking wet hair, you're like, I shouldn't be wearing a shirt right now. My shirt's getting soaked with water. So that was the Massaudi brothers. You guys probably remember them now. Now that I've referenced the wet hair, probably, oh yeah, I remember them. You're looking more at some groups like Duo Transcend, Zerkero, doing acrobat type stuff. And there's probably more that I'm missing. but he probably falls into that lower level of names. He's not on Sophie Dossie's level. He's not on the level of some of those big group acrobats, but still an important part of the history of the show because he was on 3 different basically seasons. He was a champions participant. He was a pseudo finalist by being in the top 12, and somebody that people really loved when he was on because he had the dog as a part of it.
Yeah. And he was on 3 different generations of AGT. He
Like
was
3
on
different
with Hoff and
installments
Pierce.
of the show.
Yeah. He was on Hoff and Pierce, and then he was on with Howie and Simon, and then he was on Champions. I'm sorry,
so
Howard and Howie, and then Howie
yeah.
and Simon.
Yeah. So I mean, he's seen it all. He's basically seen the one iteration I wish he would have been able to see was the season 11 on before, like, non-champions, when it was the 4 with Simon, because champions is probably a lot different. It's not a season start to finish production. It's just not the same. But ultimately, he's gotten at least a taste of pretty much every iteration of this show, between kind of the early stages where they're trying to figure out what this show is, to when it's kind of in its heyday with Howard Stern, and then to kind of that new thing that was kind of, hey, what's this? What are we doing here with champions? He's kind of seen it all. So an important historical piece, nonetheless.
Yeah, great job.
Yeah. Anything else you want to put a bow on Christian?
No, and you're all going to get an interview with him as well. We're going to interview Jay, and Commenter and I are all going to interview him. And you'll get that as a separate podcast episode, because I really don't want to put them together. It might be too long. So they'll be released as separate podcasts, and you'll get that.
Great. Yeah, I think I'm looking forward to talking to him, because I have someone who's, like we just talked about, been on so many different versions of the show, kind of see what he kind of stood out to him from, in comparing and contrasting kind of the early, middle, and end parts of the show, which hopefully we're not at the end. Hopefully we're talking about AGT season 23 sometime, but I don't know if we'll get there or not, but I'm looking forward to talking to him.
Yep. So just to kind of close this out, you're also going to get, Jay and I are almost finished with our season 2 rewatch. As of this recording, we just did top 12 episode. We've recorded that. That should be coming out real soon. You also should have a Bandaloni interview in your podcast feed. You know your Bandaloni commenter?
No, I'm not aware
of
this.
Bandaloni? So Bandaloni was in season 1. He was part of the Wild and Wacky groups, Wild and Wacky acts that were in season 1. So in season 1, of course, you had the normal competitors, but then once they got to the live shows, they did these Wild and Wacky groups, and they were like, it was like a music group, and then there was like I don't know, then there was like 3 or 4 groups, and the winner from each one of those groups then went on and competed in the finals, and whoever won that, and it was all audience vote. The whole thing was audience vote. Whoever won that then won a car.
Oh, great.
So Bandaloni, who's a one-man band. We
is that where Jay kind of got his inspiration?
That's where you're gonna get in the interview is
Band Alone E.
Yes, Bandaloni.
Okay. It's not his actual name.
No, that's not his name. That's his stage name. So Bandaloni.
I got you.
So yeah, so it was a great thrill for Jay to get to interview him. I've been a fan of his for a long time. I mean, so
it's his namesake. That's his basically Twitter namesake. Yeah,
that's where he got his. Yes. Yeah. So that should be in your
that's like piece. Me interviewing Nick Cannon. I mean, realistically.
Yes, that would be the same level.
Pretty much. Yeah. He's second on my list behind Max Major, who I'd love to interview and give him a piece of my mind. But I don't think he would ever agree to doing that.
Yep. So all that stuff should be coming out. We're also getting real close to season 16. We're a little over a month away from season 16, so I'm getting excited about that. Yeah,
it's certainly marked on my calendar. I'm very excited for June 1. I'm interested to see what this season looks like. Is there fans? Is there ever going to be fans again in the history of the world? Is it going to be in the Pasadena Performing Arts Center for the auditions? Are they doing kind of like what they did, just doing it at Universal Studios, like they did at the end of, for the live shows and stuff? I'm really intrigued. I'm intrigued to see what they come up with. And then, of course, I'm really excited for what I'm always kind of excited for of the new season, of those handful of names that I'll remember from that season and kind of mark that season in my mind, of not just the winner, but also kind of that handful of other acts that I'll remember from every season that kind of make it on my list of favorite performers. So
Yeah, great. Sounds good. So
awesome.
anything else?
No, I think we're
Okay.
good. And you're going to hear from me again before June 1, I think, on the one we have in the hopper. So I'll be back.
Yeah, so this one will come out. We also got the other rewatchable that we're doing. So we're trying to get all the season 2 stuff out of the way, and then
Yep.
we'll be releasing some of these extra things to
And
lead up to season 16.
I'll tease that one we did. It's one of the better ones we did, I think, Cody. Remembering back, because it was a big one for you, because it was a guy you hadn't seen before, really. And so,
yeah,
and it was, we hashed out some very important historical, where people sat in some of the, top 10 ever. It's an important rewatchable, I think, that people are going to really like.
absolutely. So just as a reminder, we've updated all of our social media, so be aware of that. Our Twitter and Facebook, and we're also on the Instagram now at AGT Time Pod. Our email address has also changed, agttimepod@gmail.com. Commenters on all the social medias as well, at AGT Commenter. So you can reach out to either of us. We'd love to hear your thoughts on any of this, and maybe even your thoughts for what you think season 16 is going to be like.
Yep. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, so great. Thanks for joining us this evening. Have a good night.
All right. Hey, the loudest I got was just